No, I was telling him, see, when you sinned not only against the neighbor and so on, you sinned against God.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way it was. He was overriding it all.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you got?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
He ran the business.
Yeah, yeah. And all the crowd gathered there.
What?
I see, he ran the business and everybody come in. There was no TV. I used to laugh. And it was like a little bit of a killing house. They would all gather at the store. Two Martins would come up, and you would come in, and here you had I was from Ireland, and I was right at home, and you were from Newfoundland. The two Martins was from the Prince Edward Islands. Then Pete Benoit would walk in. He was from Nova Scotia, and he never would stay. He was always in a hurry, and we used to have a lot of fun. And people were no television. And I remember the days then we all got together one night and everything was going good. And all of a sudden, everybody went home. And I closed the store at 10 o'clock, but they were gone long before 10 o'clock.
Did you see a car?
Yeah.
Did you see a car in Ireland?
A car?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was 18 years old before I saw the first car.
Is that right? Oh, no, I saw a car.
The one that I took,
Yeah.
I didn't have $1,000.
Yeah.
Didn't pay me $1,000
Is that right? Right for the first?
in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
We didn't have a bathroom. We had an outhouse in the barn.
Yeah, yeah.
See,
And where was this at now?
that was in Kensington,
Kensington,
where
yeah.
we went back
Yeah.
2 Sundays ago and celebrated our beginning.
Yeah, I remember when you come from Kensington to the United Church, to Penacook.
Yeah,
Yeah?
that's right.
And you were also over this church across the
After
street.
we left, the doctor became on the board of trustees
Yes,
and wrote me a letter and apologized.
yeah, yeah.
Said you had to live in that kind of a house.
Yeah,
Hand pump in the kitchen,
yeah, yeah,
old wood stove.
yeah. So Christine saw a lot.
Yeah.
She was a good one.
If you want to get in on this, you see, listen, when she came to me, she was a nurse.
Yes,
She was registered at McGill University
yes,
to take a new course that they were developing in administration,
yeah,
and she would have gone far.
yeah.
But she just turned it around and followed me.
She stayed with you. Yeah,
She stayed with me.
yeah.
Just as well,
But
because I'd have never made it.
But in the ministry, she done a lot of work for you too.
Oh, yeah, I said, sure, she kept me straight
I used to
in a
always-
lot of ways.
When you were here, of course, in the store, you're like an old woman, really. You know everybody, and you know everything. And I used to say, oh, that woman.
What woman?
Reverend Northcott, he's gone. Christine's home. This party would go to the door. Then that party would go looking for a handout or something. And then another party would go to the door. And she was working all the time.
But do you know some of those parties? Did you know that the telephone pole over there,
Yeah.
looking down at my place, had a name mark on it?
Is that right?
Yeah. If you want a soft touch, go down there. And that was before the throughways.
Yeah,
And now they were coming at me like everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I had one fellow came in. He said, "Look, I don't drink.
Yeah.
I don't drink, but I haven't seen my father since after 3 years. See, so 3 years old.
Yeah.
My sister knows where he is. All I've been doing all my life is going from one place to another, looking for my father.
Mm-hmm.
They'll find me someday on the road." Another fellow came down, and he was well dressed. He was postman or something, but I admit he had a good job. And as he came on, year after year, he was getting more deteriorated. And this other time, he came in the rain. Oh, he didn't look well. He wanted some money. I said, "Where are you going?" "Frank," I said, "I'll drive you." "No." "You hungry?" I'll give you food. No, money. I said, no, no more, no more. Walked out of the house, turned back to me, opened the door. What are you going to do? What do you do when the minister says no? I said, that's good for $1 here. I didn't see him again. Poor guy, he died on the way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I remember first was Reverend Northcott walked in one night and he told me he was from Newfoundland, and of course I had read about Newfoundland, Nova Scotia and these other islands, and of course I knew the Martin brothers. And they were good boys, you know. They were from the Prince Edward Islands, and they were
Potatoes.
they grew potatoes down there. They had a big farm.
And turnips.
But they were really they were expert farmers, you know. They really knew how to grow stuff. There was other things that they didn't, but I mean, really they were great. And back in them days, money was pretty tight. And I left a job where I was making good money, and I bought the store, and didn't realize after I bought the store that I was working all kinds of overtime, but we were in a recession in the early 50s. There wasn't much money around. So when people weren't making much money, I wasn't making much money. So everybody were just surviving. And but I often thought of it, you know, that it was nice to have a lot of people that got to be good friends, because they kind of depend on them, because I was getting less. I could draw less from the store in a month than I was making in any week. I was in the store, as I said, and you were glad to meet these people. And Mr. Northcott, I think maybe the first night I was there, or the second night, he walks in and he introduced himself, and I talked with him. And I think we took it all from there.
I think so.
I felt there's a guy there that I really like. We really got along, and then these other people come along, and some nights would be 4 or 5 gathered there talking. But I always remember this one. So this night I said, I got to get a little work done. So I'm running, and they're talking all around up front in the store, and they're all around. I'm lugging stuff into the cellar. I was trying to get caught up, and no help, just Betty, and she was upstairs. And so she heard them talking, and she comes down, and she gets involved in the conversation, and they're all talking, so everything went fine. The next morning the phone rings, and that's Reverend Northcott. He said, is my car up in your yard? They got all talking at the counter. He walked home from the store, which many time he done, walked home from the door to the house, got up the next morning to use the car. No car. The car was up the store. Did you remember that? Huh?
I've done that ever since.
Well, yeah, he did it several times, but that time it was so funny. So I said, well, he must have been really enjoying that, you know, that conversation, because Betty was involved in it, and I was listening. You know, I was passing by and I could hear these other guys, and then but everybody would come a certain time of night. Everybody would rush home, and he heads like anyone else home, because Christine would be home there alone. He would work for the church all day, and people, and then he would head down to Concord. And it didn't matter who you were, if he knew of anybody that would like to, you know, needed a visitor, he was there. Didn't matter who they were or what they were. He was there to see them. And it wasn't just his church group, it was all people from the town. So he was really part of the community. So of course it made it easy for us to think he was, because that's what he was doing himself. It was easy for us to see. So he'd come in and maybe find something to take something home with him. And then he would be late at night. I'm sure Christine was waiting on him, because he already had been gone for hours. Because
you talk about taking something home.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Maybe it's a turkey leg.
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
I should go up and get a turkey leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
When one of my daughters got married, and she brought her groom with her, See, met her for the first time. Chris was putting a turkey leg in the boiler,
Yeah.
and her husband happened to look at it and said to her, "Is this all we're going to get for supper?"
I remember
But
you.
once that turkey leg got beaten up and you
Yeah.
put all the vegetables in it,
Yeah. I remember you used to come in and they goes, as you say about how we met. You'd come down back, and of course there was no meat man. I was the meat man. I was the chef, cook, and butler because it was just a one-man store when I started. Betty and I would do it together, and when she wasn't taking care of the kids and we had an intercom, that we could hear the kids downstairs. So you used to come in and they used to say, he said to me, what would you have that a man could feed a good-sized family for Sunday and dinner? And I would get out the meat, and of course then you carried out the big chunk, and you didn't cut the stuff I had, you had very little stuff in the case, you cut it, and I used to cut, because you likely didn't know what you were getting, I used to cut a big chuck roast, and a big flat, called a flat chuck, and you took that home, and it must have been good because he never complained. But it was a good cut of meat to feed a family, and Christine likely knew how to cook it well because I never got any complaints, so I knew it had to come out good. But it's amazing what people do.
We didn't owe you any money, did we?
No, you didn't owe me no money. You didn't owe me no money. Everything you got, you paid for. I remember the days when there was no hot lunches, and the people used to run in the morning, get a few slices of cheese, a few slices of cold meat to pack the kids' lunch to send them off to school, because there wasn't always hot lunches everywhere. And it was different than today. Today you're living as a different life. But it was a very interesting life because people had time to say hello to one another, and I think that was important. Well, I think we're it's nice. They had sometimes they used to, as alcohol can get anyone in trouble, and once in a while they used to get a little mixed up with that. But I overlooked a lot of that, and I used to cater to them. People used to say, "Why do you bother with them?" And I said, "Well, you'll have to find out that there's good parts as well as bad parts." I said, "You only see their faults, you don't see the good these people do." I said, "I didn't have much money, and I started the store, and things was not good because a lot of the stuff had to go on a slip. People weren't working, and you had to wait for your money in the winter time." And they used to say to me, well, I mentioned one day that I would like to use the shed. I had happened to kill a couple of pigs for them, and they knew I could do that. And I said, by any chance, could I use this area when the winter time, when you're not, it won't bother you, can I use it to do this? And they said, "Oh, sure, you can come down if you want to use a truck, you want to use anything, it's all yours, Dan. Help yourself." I said, you just cut up the pigs for us and do this, and there'll be no money passed. It'll be all just friendship. And I used to go down there every week. I'd go down there, and back in those days there wasn't much money around, and there was a lot of stores in town, and when it was over, the recession was over, there was a lot less stores. But I done well on that day because I was going to sell the pork without any middleman. I bought the pork the pigs, over by Long Pond in Concord. And I brought them home, took them down there and took care of them. It never cost me a nickel. They didn't charge me for the use of the facilities there, and I did well. And then times change. People, the minute you start getting money, everybody gets involved. People started getting a little money, and the state hired a lot of inspectors, and all of a sudden one day I got 6 pigs lined up, 2 of my own and 4 belonging to other people. I charged so much a head when I did it. Now Betty kept the store while I'm doing this during the day. And I used to average alone, I'd average a half hour out every pig I would have done in a half hour. So if I'd be gone 3 hours if I did 6. And I would get back, but out of nothing in between, I charged $6 a head in those days for doing a pig complete. And that was a big job, you know, but they used to think I made good money. Well, I did. And 6 I did, I come home with $24 plus I did 2 for myself. And there was no middleman, so I had any profit was in there. And I was fit to sell the pork cheaper to help the people that were out of work out. I was fit to sell it to them cheaper than anyone else in town because they had to buy theirs. They had to buy theirs through the wholesale house. And the old people used to come in and they used to say, "Can I have a pig's head?" I used to say, "Sure. You want a whole head or half a head?" And, and they would say the whole head was $1, the half head was 75 cents. So I sold them half a head for 75 with a whole head for $1. And they used to make what they would call, the old French people would remember this well, they were great for making what they call head cheese. Mm-hmm. And head cheese is made out of a pig's head, and they all knew how to do that, the old people. And you know, it was funny, I did that every winter, from fall to the spring. And when I would be doing that, they would be all booked ahead for heads. Every week I would do, when I would do 2 pigs, I'd do 1 week I might do 1, and then another week I've got a head, I'll do 2. And they always never threw anything in the can, that all went out. So they used to tease me, they used to say, "Carey, I think you sell everything but the squeal."
The what?
Everything but the squeal. You know how a pig squeals.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say squid.
Yeah.
You know squid?
Yeah, squid, yeah. I heard of that, yeah. But that's what they used to do, sell everything but the squeal.
Squids. Squid was the bait for the cod.
Yeah, oh yeah, the codfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if somebody didn't know it, you had to go out and jig for the squid.
Yeah.
You ever see the jigger, the hook the little thing, a little round hook?
I think I did, yeah.
Throw one over that side.
Yeah.
One over that side. You pull this one up, and you got to watch it because when the squid comes up, it squirts.
Yeah.
So you got the oilskins on, you see. Throw that one in, and then pull this one up and go like that. Very early in the morning to do it. And if you want, sometimes you got somebody come and visit you who never knew anything about squids. Take them out for a ride. Jig some squids. Good. Now, so when that squid comes up, take a look at him.
Yeah.
Gets them right in the eye. So that's the other side of the life that you had to laugh about.
But things were different because there wasn't much money. They used to sell like pork liver, for instance, sold for 29 cents a pound.
Can you remember when you made your first $1?
Yeah.
What'd you do with it?
Oh, I had it in the store still.
Oh, that's here,
yeah.
But as a kid.
Oh, as a kid, no, I don't remember when I made it because I was a long time before I saw $1. Back where I come from was a pound, and the pound.
Well, a pound, all right, a
pound.
The
pound was worth $5. Well, I was half grown up before I made a pound. You know, you didn't get paid for.
No.
I worked at home.
We used to get coal from Europe.
Yeah.
And we get 4 or 5 of these coming in a summer.
Yeah.
Big coal boats, we call them.
Coal boats, yes.
Dump them in my town, and then supply the trains and so on.
Yeah.
Whatever was using coal. And this is the time you made some money, but it's only 25 cents an hour.
Yeah.
For what you got.
Yeah.
And that was my first time getting any money. And I worked it was 5 hours, hour off, 5 hours, but in 15 hours. I did it for about 3 days. And I went home at the end of 3 days, or middle of the day, and had a nap.
Yeah.
And never woke up for 24 hours later. My hands were swollen, so on.
Yeah.
When I got my money, which was $15.10, I brought it home, put it on the table, and my mother gave me 10 cents.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great.
You thought that was great.
Because what I was doing, contributing to the family.
Yeah.
And in order to survive, we all had to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You were part of the family.
Yeah.
And you had a responsibility even down.
And you thought that was part of your job, you had to do it.
And we had this, my father was gone, and the younger, 3 or 4 younger ones left, come home, saw the wood up for winter.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I was talking about my son, the 7th son of the 7th son, my brother,
Yeah.
I said, boy, did we work at that. He said, you never worked a bit. The rest of us were working. You were gone playing ball somewhere. I said, I'll allow you that. But that was our job.
Yeah.
Bring the wood in.
Bring the wood.
Getting up in the morning. You know, when you want shavings,
Yeah.
we cut the spits and stuff up. This was splitting wood.
Yeah.
Take one of that with a little sharp knife and start to cut like that. Twist them and twist them. The little shavings.
Yeah.
We'd make them the night before. Somebody had to do that. Put them in, put the wood on top of that, light that.
Like that.
Let her go.
That started the fire, the shaving.
See, and I'm 3 or 4 kids of us left, and we all had to have turns in lighting the fire in the morning because it's very cold. So
Yeah.
we used to have frost on our blankets
Yeah. Yeah.
in the morning. We're getting up. See, now it's your turn to light the fire. He said, I did it yesterday, and this would go around for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Each one of us says, it's your turn. Finally, and I told him my brother had a artificial leg, see?
Yeah.
And he would always say, don't forget to warm my leg,
Oh, yeah.
to bring it out. But if we had beans for the morning, if Mother had made beans,
Yeah.
we were all ready to light the fire.
That was a treat.
Yeah, it was a treat.
You know, it's funny, I guess people had rough times then. I spoke with a fellow from Nova Scotia and I said, will you ever go back when you retire? Will you move back there? And he said, no, Dan. He said, I won't. He said, I won't go back. He said, people today in Nova Scotia don't even know what people in my day went through. He's in our age and in my age. And he said that they used to stuff newspapers in the holes in the wall to
Right.
keep the wind from blowing on. There was no insulation. They had woodland to the house, and they used to cut the wood and carry it on and put that. And he said, I come to Boston. He said, I got a job. And he said, I really found out how easy it was to live. And it made money, but he said, I had to send it home to my folks because that was part of my family.
The town the little village that was started from my town, 10 or 15 years ago, you would go back there was nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't find the place where your house was. It was all covered up. Now there's a generation coming in, some who's got some money, and they're building houses on top of it.
Yeah.
Now, if you got enough money, building houses on something, on a history they don't know anything about.
They don't know what went on there generations
So
before.
there's a sense, as the poet said, you can't go home again.
No. Now, well,
But you can pass on.
Oh yeah.
You can pass on what that home meant and that gave to you.
But that there, if you have a video of this, that's what I thought.
Huh?
It would be great for some of the things that you've seen because your family never saw what you saw.
Never.
So when you're not around, some of them will be around, and it'll be nice for them to have that, to know what you were through. But, I think when you and I met first in town, there was no money. There wasn't much money at all, and one used to help the other. And like every day you go out now, everywhere's all new cars. Only everybody had old junks and they were polishing them and towing them.
How about when the bank closed?
When the bank closed, right. That was the time. And the little bit of money that anybody had, they were starting to get on their feet, and all of a sudden the bank down here, you know where the bank is? The bank folded.
We didn't know that.
It folded, and I get up same as every morning, and I go down, and of course I was conservative, you know. I never bought any unless I didn't want to buy any unless I had the money. I'll do without. So I get my bag and I go down. Never know, so I didn't know anything. You didn't the communication and news you got today, and I go down to the bank to make a deposit, and here's these fellas in uniform walking back and forth in front of the
See,
door.
I was in Boston.
Yeah.
I was in Boston with at a church retreat, and the fellow that was with me was from Suncook and Pembroke, and he was the one that helped me buy the camp that we got.
Yeah.
And then when Chris called me up and she said, the bank's closed, you better come home. Our daughter was going somewhere, they had to borrow money.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people had to borrow money to get out of town.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Rand, his name was, is retired commissioner. And he came there and he had a lot of dreams. He had a lot of dreams that this bank was going to supply for this town. And he outfitted a couple up in Boscawen people and so on. And he said to me one time that that little building that the church on Sanders Street, the church later bought,
Yeah.
that would be a good place, he said, to set up for a doctor.
Yeah.
We have no doctor in town, and he was thinking about that. And then he married Hazel, what's her name?
Yeah.
His wife
I remember.
died,
Yeah.
and he took his first vacation
Yeah.
and went to Florida. While he's at Florida, they closed the bank on him.
Closed the bank.
And we never had any, what do they call it, insurance at that time.
No,
the
there
banks,
was no bank insurance.
they came up right after that, see? And after that, we were recovering from the bank. I think the bank could have come back. But he I guess they were ready to castigate
See, in a
him.
later date, everybody was
They
insured.
were ready to do him out in. And he died 3 or 4 years later. He really died of a broken heart.
But he was a good man. You know, he wanted to help people.
He wanted to help people, and I think what happened was, if they said what happened, the ones that he outfitted up in Boscawen declared bankruptcy or something
Yes.
while he was gone. And they came up and closed the
another
bank.
thing that happened, the commission in Concord didn't want him here. There was only 2 or 3 banks owned everything in the state. They controlled it. And the banking commission really squeezed him out. That's what happened. They really put the lid on because nobody really lost any money in the bank at the final. I mean, it was all paid back. I lost.
Oh, John, what's his name?
Alan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his boy, they were on it.
Roland.
They were in it too.
Oh, yeah.
And then one thing that we did do through John, I don't know where I got this in my head. I said to John Allen, I said, it wouldn't be very nice if we had a backlog of money at the bank. If somebody gets hurt, burns out or something like that, that they could draw upon this money to do. And they did get a sum. John thought it was very good, and there was a committee, and so on, but it faded out.
Yeah.
They made a bad loan, and once they made a bad loan to somebody, and that was enough. They said no
There were a
more.
couple of things didn't go right,
Huh?
but I mean, I don't think it was really enough to take the bank down if it was anything else, because really the bank never could have come out of what it did, you know, and everybody would have lost their shirt, where they didn't. But I did know that day that I said I went down, and I come back and I said, well, now what about the checks that I made out? I wonder what'll happen to them if they didn't have to clear. So all of a sudden went on a few days, and the phone rings one day, and it said, this is Toledo Scale in Manchester, New Hampshire. And it said, you bought a scale, you know, telling me the date that I bought a scale, new scale, which I did. And he said, you give the salesman a check and the check's no good, we're going to pick up the scale. Because the old scale was gone. I said, well, where's the old one? But it was time to get a new scale according to state inspection, see. And he said, the old one's gone, but we go pick up the scale. And he really told me that in other words, I was doing something wrong, but there was nothing I could do. The money was in the bank, and the check was all right as long as the bank stayed open. But when the bank closed, naturally they no funds, because they couldn't get at the funds. So I didn't mind, I knew there'd be others. And after a few days went on, and every day about he bugged me, I said, don't come for the scale, just don't bother me. So he did, and finally I said this day, I said to Betty, I said, I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to call Toledo, Ohio, and I want to speak to the president of this company. I called him, and a nicer man I never talked with. I told him what happened, how the bank closed. I went down with my deposit and had the money there when I made out the check. And he told me, he said, don't worry about the Manchester office, that'll be taken care of. And I guess it was. I never saw the guy around again. But he said, when you're ready and you get the bank straightened out, it's not your fault. He said, we read in the news where it happened. A little bank in Penacook, but they knew out in Toledo, Ohio. And so when I was ready, as soon as I got things squared away, I sent them a check right to and I got a nice note from them to thank me. But it was, people were caught, and it wasn't their fault.
No.
It wasn't their fault.
Blue Monday or Black Monday. I don't know.
Yeah, and I got caught in that pretty bad because, but I come out of it all right. But the people I thought were awful good to me, Hood's Milk used to delivered milk, and Sunbeam Bread was a big bread in them days. And when they would come in, I wouldn't have always time. I used to take checks from the customers, and I wouldn't have always time to go to deposit them down to the bank. So when I would owe a bill, I would sign their check. They already had it signed. I would sign the check, which is it's a second-hand check so I would sign the check and I would give it and pay my bill, for the amount of milk I would get. And all of a sudden, when the bank closed, I had a whole bunch of checks down at Hood's that hadn't gone through. They were all drawn on the Valley Trust. So they called me up and they said, what do you want to do, Dan? I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pay the man cash when he delivers the milk, and each week I'll give him so much till such times I hope I can get at that money in the account. But it went on for a long time before we could get an account, but I was all clear. I was all paid up before it happened.
Yeah.
And I had the money on there, but I never really lost any. I lost maybe on a couple of checks that people didn't want to,
Yeah.
They had the money and
It was
they cashed the check and I went to see them, but they had it in the account, but they wouldn't make me out another check.
It was a bad time.
Bad time. But them times you just bypasses and you leave it. But it's quite an education to go through something like that. And everybody was all upset. And I mean, there wasn't a lot.
Oh, they were upset. They were angry.
Angry.
Right.
We had a lot of, but there was a lot of everything was. What wasn't taken care of in the store wasn't worth taking care of, because everybody gathered in there and they talked and they asked, told one another stories.
I always got a lot of information out of the stores, out of somebody's garage.
Yeah, over Tommy's garage.
When they would gather.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of blarney.
Yeah.
But then the sober stuff came on, and you got pretty much to know which way the wind was blowing.
Yeah.
And the real issues in town. I make that everywhere I go. I make my acquaintance in the garage. Takes a while.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to listen to you if you're particularly up my way when you first come in. They want to know.
You have to be there a while before they.
Are you for me or against me?
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
Are you going to exploit us or something of that kind? But after a while, you can be one of the boys, but it takes a while, and then you can hear it.
Yeah.
And then you can know, and it's been very helpful to me.
Oh yeah.
Because I can get,
Of course, in those days. And even today up where you are, a little different than even here. But like when I first came in 1953, and you went to a bank to get a mortgage, if you didn't have credit established in the state, they didn't want to know you. You could have a nice down payment, and you still, they still didn't want to talk to you after you got there and you thought you were all set to buy something. I found this out. I bought the store, put a binder on the store, put my house on the market in Queens, which I made good money there, but it was a young fella's job. I mean, the job I was on only lasted till about 40, and then they were all, backs were hurt and everything else wrong with them, because all heavy work. And so I thought I'd go out on some of my own because I didn't have education. And when I come up here, and I thought I was set, I had a house that was about 2/3 paid for on the market in them days. I bought the store, and the house was worth more than the store because the market in New York was a lot higher than here. So I landed and went down to the bank to get the mortgage, thinking all I had to do, because I had good credit, and I had the collateral. Collateral didn't count as long as it was across the line. If it was in New Hampshire, it was all right, but it was no good in New York. Credit was no good in New York. Today, if you credit, it could be in California. They can check on you in 2 seconds in a computer. But in the old days, it wasn't like that. So they said to me at the bank, till you get your own credit established, you'll have to have a co-signer. So I had to get busy, and I happened to know a man that had credit here, and he signed for me. And he had to sign the slip along with me. That was Bill O'Brien. And he signed O'Brien's cabins up by Ross's.
Hey, where does O'Brien come in?
You mean with me?
Yeah.
He was a foreman on the job where I was. And one day, I got to be friendly. One day, I come in, and they were all gathered outside the warehouse, and they were all truck drivers. And they said, everybody Monday, what are you doing? I said, well, believe it or not, I went to New Hampshire over the weekend. And they said, what did you do? I said, I took a load of freight from McBride Trucking. That was a company that used a subcontract to the telephone company where I worked. But I had to work for McBride by the job because we were union. The telephone company's drivers were all union, and you couldn't get an hourly pay. So you had to go by the job, but he used to pay me the job. So I come up with a load of freight to Laconia, from Brooklyn, New York, to Laconia, New Hampshire. And when I come up, I happen to tell us. So this man steps out of the way, and he said, Dan, could I see you a minute? And I said, yeah. And his name was Bill O'Brien. He was a foreman on the job where I was. He was one of the foremen, but there was about 7 or 8 foremen there. There was a big group of trucks. And they said, if he said, have a load going up, he said, and I can get the truck, he said, would you take a load up for me sometime? He was going to start the cabin business, see. And he said, if I can buy the stuff right here and take it up there, he said, would you take it up for me? I said, sure. I'm not working, I'll be glad to. So I took a load up for him then. I took his washer.
He had the cabins.
Yeah, he had the cabins. I took his stoves, his refrigerators and all that. He bought everything down there. And he bought a group of them, and I hauled them up here from. And then we got to be friendly. And then, when I stayed there, then after he got the cabins started, I stayed there when I'd come here on vacation. Just before I bought
But he had nothing to do with the store.
He did in the beginning because he had a sign along with me. The signature was on it, but he had nothing to do as far as money going down on it. It was me got the mortgage, but he had to sign the note because I had no credit. And after 8 months, I went down to Mr. Rand, and O'Brien was he didn't feel good. So he told me he was going to have to go in the hospital and have an operation. Of course, I got upset, that he had his name on my. So I went down and I seen Mr. Rand and I told him. I said, I'm here 8 months, it's not a long time, but I said, I like to pay everybody, and I like to always said, I can tell. He said, you like to do the right thing. He said, we'll see what we can do. And he said, so he got it set up. So what I did, when what money I had gathered up, I put that extra along with what I had, and he took his name off.
Yeah.
So I was on my own. And but he had really no money and tied up in the store, but he had his name, which he had credit, which I didn't. See, I had money on it. I put 5,000 in them days. 5,000 was a lot of money to put down. I put 5,000 down on the store, and O'Brien put down nothing. But he had credit, and I had none, because credit, when you were in New York, they always, I think they were afraid that you come in here to New Hampshire with a gun in your pocket, which I felt. I felt I was coming home, because I come from a lot of poorer part of the country than this was. And but they were all good to me, and these people were. Same as Mr. Rand, I found out that he was a gentleman. If you were honest, he was ready to help anybody, and I think that's where he may have stuck his neck out a little too far.
Probably.
But he was a good man.
Yeah.
He helped a lot of people in town, and they started that bank, but I felt there was a lot of politics behind it. If the ones that had the money tied up, that were all the stockholders and the like of the Concord National. Concord National paid the Penacook office, the Valley Trust, paid them 120,000 to have the right to come in here. You couldn't have a branch bank, but they got it with a commission.
I know.
And they paid 120,000 to come in
That's
here.
when they came in after, didn't it?
Yeah, so that was the first branch ever come in the state of New Hampshire. And they done that, and see, they were the ones that were the cause of closing this. But it was all business, you know what I mean? In other words, if they closed that one, and they got in there, but this is what they'd done. Now, a bank wasn't in too bad a shape even back then, when 120,000 would, with that 120,000, everybody come out about right. Nobody got hurt too bad in that. One day I come into the store, and it was a holiday weekend. And I worked, and I didn't have time to go to the bank on a Friday. Late on Friday. I went early before the shops got out. Then I was busy on meat and working, and come Friday night, Saturday all day, Sunday all day, Monday was a holiday all day. So I had them 4 days receipts in the store. The Valley Trust closed. Back then, the Valley Trust was closed, and I had the receipts all on me in the store, and I carried more money, because when the Valley Trust closed, I didn't have much money, but I went, and this is funny. This is just business. I went to the bank, and I had good credit then established, and I went down to the Concord National, and I told them what I was doing, and I said, "Is there any chance that I could borrow $1,000? And he looked, and of course right away he started, the Valley Trust, he let me know the Valley Trust was closed. He was a loan officer. And of course, Francis Southworth was his name. He was become president of the bank. He was president of the Concord National later. So he started telling me, and I said, "I didn't come in here to hear a story. I come in to just ask you a simple question. Do you want to loan me $1,000 if my credit says so? And I don't want no talk about it. I want to pay it back when I'm ready, but I need that $1,000. And they said, "Well, what would you be doing?" Well, I said, "I'm going to operate in my business." Which, what I was going to do is, with no bank, if you were stuck, a neighbour was stuck, and he come in and said to me, "Dan, I need to cash a cheque for $15. I wanted someone to cash the cheque. Well, I had no money. Do you get what I mean? So I used $1,000, and I would cash the cheque, and then I'd go to the bank and get 1,000 more, and I would keep it on. Of course, I built this up. So I had several thousand built up before we got bank business back to town. But in the meantime, I was cashing a lot of these checks. And but everything worked out good for me, because when these people come in and you cash the check, you also got business. They all bought off me. A lot of times, instead of going to Concord, they used to work in them days. They worked 5.5 days. You know, you worked half a day Saturday. A lot of the lumber mills and that didn't get Saturday off. They'd work half a day. And the banks would be all closed, you know, in Concord. So they'd come in and say, can you cash my check? Will you save me some money? They'll come in there maybe the day before, and I'll come in, I'll cash my check, and I'll get some stuff. And of course, I done good business for them, and they thought I helped them out, and I done well by it. But anyhow, helping one another out this day, all of a sudden this customer comes in, and he said to me, he said, "Dad, I come in to cash a check, but I'm in a hurry." He says, "The house up the street's all afire." So I have all the receipts on me. I'm headed for the bank, and I had the bag with me, but I had also the bag with the checks. I had that zippered bag in my back pocket, and I had a roll of cash here and a roll of cash here, because a lot of checks didn't come in, so it was cash I got that weekend. It was a good weekend, and I'm going down to make this deposit, and the fire starts, and I run over and jump in the fire truck and out, and I lay the line, and we get in there, and of course when we get going on the fire, everything worked out good, and we're knocking it down good, and all of a sudden some man that wasn't a fireman opens a door, like that door there, opens the door, and me and 3 men, and I'm on the front of it. I was captain of the company, and I was in front, leading the way, and we were in a wonder, and everything was all set. We're getting down the right under control, and he opens this door. That door was full of flame, that room. See, that the one we were in the wonder, but the door between them 2 rooms were closed, so the fire was boxed off. And he's standing there, and all of a sudden he hollers and opens the door. He feels the door and felt it hot. Instead of telling, he didn't have the experience. He opens the door, so out comes the bolt of flame. See, when you get when a fire gets, that's like throwing gasoline on it when you give it air. See, because it's dying, it's not coming anywhere, going anywhere, because it's all the oxygen eat up. So the minute you open the door, so the bolt of fire come out, and of course the hose. Yeah. When he hollered, I turned the hose, and the men with me. So all 4 of us got knocked to the ground. And I think you remember this. And I got burned. And was taken to the hospital. I got my face burned right around like this. And it was all black. But it was only skin deep. See, it wasn't burned from the fire. It was burned from it boiled the hot water, the water coming through that I protected. You get what I mean? I swung, when he shouted, I swung the hose, and it was a big hose, 2.5. The other men behind me got touched here and there, but was in the front, and I got the blunt of it. And so we got out of there. They got another hose come in and took over. But that was fine to get to the hospital. Of course, I got to tell a joke, because you'll know what I'm talking about. So when I get in there, they get me into bed. A stretcher, and my clothes are all black, I've on clothes. They're getting the clothes all off me, so they got to everything till they got to the pants. So of course when they went to take my pants, I wouldn't give them the pants. I had the zippered bag shoved inside when I was at the fire, shoved inside my shirt, put on the fire coat over the top of this, and they're stripping me, and I got all this money on me. I got a few $1,000s, which is a lot of money in them days. And so the nurses finally went to and they said, "Who's your doctor?" I said, "Any doctor from Penacook. There's 3 doctors. There's Dr. Shaw, Dr. McLeod, and there was one other, I forget his name, but he died later on. He was an older man, but I forget his name. But any of those 3, so I said, anyone, outdo me what I want." I thought I was all right, but they made me go to the hospital. I was burned, and it was burned from the hot water. See, took the skin off my face. So Dr. Shaw came in, and when Dr. Shaw came in, he said, "What can you do for you, Dan?" I said, "Well, I'm in here." I said, "You can look at me if you want to, but I said, I think I'll be all right." I said, "I feel all right. I just feel my face, some of my face." And I said, "Why won't you give your clothes to the nurses?" So there's people in the room, and I said, "Doc, come here." I said, "I got $4,000 or $5,000 here in my pocket," which I had more likely than that. And I said, "I got that in my pocket." And I said, "Do you want to take it?" He says, "No, Daddy, keep your pants." So I'm in bed with these smoky pants on me, and I finally got them off, and they got them rolled up, and they put them under my pillow. So so that was fine. So I get home. I stayed in the hospital for just a little while. The couple of doctors looked at the skin, and they wouldn't wash it, see, because this black stuff that was from the black pitch, if they took that off, or took all the skin off, they just leave it. That was odd. But this was kind of cute. So I thought, oh, I get home, I'm all right. So I'm upstairs. I can't work in the store because I have this black face with a helmet, come right around like this, and black, and the skin broken, and everything's going good. And all of a sudden, Reverend Northcott shows up to see me. He already had been out all day, gathering up stuff for these people that we had burned out, got burned out. He found them a place to live. Got a house for them over, remember that? The Greek house over on Chandler Street right across from me. He got the house, he got them clothes, church donated some clothes and some food and some stuff, and you were busy. And he goes upstairs there to see me after he gets all caught up with this other family that got burned out. And he's sitting over on the far side, he's sitting down and he has his legs across. He'd been going all day and it was cold weather. And I look over, and here's a man was going all day, and he had the whole wore through on the sole of his shoe. Sock and all was wore right with the whole wore.
My shoe?
Was right, his shoe. And I was sitting there, and my face all black, and I said, here he's helping me, he's helping other people, and here he don't even have time to go home and change his shoes. And his feet was likely soaking wet because they couldn't be dry, because the hole was wore right through in the leather sole. And you likely didn't remember that. You were upstairs, come upstairs. We lived upstairs over the store in them days. Good.
Yeah.
The house burned, it really got burned because when we got hurt, it really got away, So I got knocked down, it only takes a few minutes, we got then right into the rest of the house again. But they lost a good part of the house and it was replaced. But this is the things that one helped the other. But all day long, this outfit, this company here, they were previes, and he never asked who they were, what national they were, what church they went to. He was there helping them. They were French, they were Catholic, and he was out there helping them. That was you likely didn't think a thing of that, but I noticed it because I was there, but I thought that was pretty good. So this is why I say it. You've done an awful lot for.
Yeah, episodes you made me think. I don't know what the connection was, but in Montreal, because I had little money coming in, got a church over in Vermont, because there was a Newfoundlander, who was a bishop or something up there, and he said, we got some churches down here, and he said, I think Newfoundlanders are good for them.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. So we got there, and I used to ride back and forth on the train.
Yeah.
Because nothing else to Montreal. And I'd buy up a little bit of food and take up with me, because the exchange was pretty good at the time. And they got to know me on the train. So this night I had a shoulder, fresh shoulder.
Yeah.
It lasted for a week.
Yeah.
Taken in my suitcases. Of course, he's going by asking everybody. He said, what you got? But he just passed me by on these things that I got by. But the next, there was a lady. So what you got? And he did. He opened it, and I don't know whatever she had, but he had to take her out.
Yeah.
And I got by on that, but we did that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Where were you when you were in Ireland when we had that hurricane and rain in 1938? You were
yeah, I wasn't here.
You were in Ireland?
See, I was in Ireland. That's when we got, the hurricane was they had the flood here in 1936, and you had the hurricane in 1938.
I was in Montreal.
Yeah.
I was in Moortown.
The hurricane we had come in here, and I saw pictures of it. There's old pictures in Concord. You can't get a hold of them, but they're like in the Historical Society. The trees were all levelled. Like, we had a man up in Boscawen. In fact, I got some of the land, bought some of the land from his, other people. Went to them, and then later on I bought it. But digging through some of the history, his name was and the sheets, and he owned an awful lot of lumber land. That was his hobby. Anytime he got a few dollars, he bought land.
And tell you how the people were. You know, I had a car. It was called the Hupmobile.
Hotmobile?
Hupmobile.
Yeah, yeah. I heard of that.
And I came in this day. It was a funeral, I think. And I heard the something go in the engine. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Ran out of oil.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was knocking.
Yeah, somebody came along and took me in.
Yeah.
But this was on the weekend. I had to go back to Montreal. The mechanic there went out and got my car, dragged it in, and then he had to put rings on the cylinder, you know?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, he had to do a ring job because...
Charged me $7.
$7. Isn't that something? $7. What year was that, about 30?
38.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kept coming in one time. It hadn't hit the snow before. See, in my ordination, there were 9 people with me.
Yes.
Only one left. He came from Newfoundland.
Yeah.
The rest are dead. Called him up a little while ago, because he's in this car. I called him up and said, "Jack, where are you?" "I don't know," he said. "I think I'm in a nursing home."
Yeah.
See, well, he was with me in coming out. He didn't think much about driving. And there's snow on the ground, so I said, "Gee, I wonder about my brakes." I said, "I think I better try it." Put the brakes. But the way we went, right in the side of the road, right off. And he never drove in his life, and he was trying to get the wheel to put it back on, see? But we're still going out the ditch. Had to walk back nearly a mile.
Yeah.
A fella came and pulled us out, never charged us a thing.
No.
Never charged us anything.
Well, speaking of the car, I have to tell you, as you remember this, remember one time we got, as you speak about the storms, you know, of course in them days there was a hurricane that likely to come in, and it wasn't the communication that you got today that people would prepare for. Like you had no radio, even back in the 50s, you didn't have it.